Welcome, guys, to the watch list for the week of March 8th. So, last week was a pretty eventful week outside of the markets, even though if you look at the charts, it doesn't seem like it. All right, so the Iran conflict is heating up. We have seen obviously escalation as well as de escalation, just a lot of news stories flowing in. So, trying to assess that situation on its own it's a complex thing because there's just so many moving parts. What we can do is try and assess prices. Now this video is mostly going to be about context because based on the situation of the indices and where we are in the markets and just all the moving parts, we are probably close to an inflection point, and you don't really find many good setups at inflection points. So I checked my screener, I checked all kinds of screeners, and it didn't really help to try and look for names where we can put on risk. What I want to focus on in this watch list is just the different things that we can focus on trying to make sense of where the markets are. All right, so that's I'm just trying to set the expectations for the weekly watch list. Obviously, I'm making the watch list on Sunday because similar to what I had advised, I took the Saturday off, away from the markets, away from the news, just to look at the charts and the facts themselves. So let's start with QQQ. As usual, I've removed the drawings for now just so that we can look at the structure. On the structure, we can see we have had 6 months of sideways consolidation. All the way since October, we haven't really gone anywhere new. All right, let's look at it on the weekly chart. On the weekly chart, we see the same thing. We are still range bound. We are actually still in the range of February. All right, so the weekly candle that mostly printed in the first week of Feb has contained most of the action so far. Now, is there something new that you see here? Yeah, we have started to get rejected off of the 9-week moving average for the last few weeks. That wasn't the case before. But then, as we saw prior, when we were up here and 9MA was holding support, that also didn't mean much once we changed course of action. What I'm trying to say is moving averages don't give you much information while we're in consolidations. All right, they can help you out when we are in a trend, but when we are in consolidations, price can and usually does cross the moving averages without much respect. That's also we can see in SPY. We actually closed below the 21 moving average, still in the same range. So that's the overall context on the larger time frames. Nothing new appears here. So why am I looking at it? Well, let's just define our levels real quick. That's why I'm looking at it. On the weekly charts, the larger time frame levels, still the same levels hold. 594 is your crucial support. 616 to 618 is your crucial resistance. If price holds below 594, all right, we can see a move to around 580. And then obviously that's the line in the sand for the bulls to hold. Above 618, we can go up to the all-time highs around 636 and potentially break out higher. So pretty simple levels on the larger time frame. In terms of context, at least chart-wise, QQQ, nothing has changed. What about on the daily charts? We discuss the daily charts every single day in the daily analysis videos, but you guys can see we have been in the same range since February 3rd. Did we try to break the range a few times? Yes, we did, even last week when we gapped down. And then we just held support. Not much more to say. So this is the structure for QQQ and the levels. All right. We can bring back the drawings. Our consolidation is clear. We'll discuss intraday movement on the daily analysis videos. Now, could we see something new that might not be observed here? Could we see something that's changing in the markets while price just moves sideways? Yeah, let's look at the chart of QQQ versus SPY. Let's look at the relative strength there. That chart has been bottoming out for the last 4 weeks. This last sell-off in that is that big candle in QQQ from the first week of Feb. And you guys can see QQQ and SPY, QQQ SPY chart, the relative strength chart is starting to turn up. And usually when this chart has bottomed out, that also signals that the markets are bottoming out. So you guys can see the last few examples of that, or obviously the April one. Prior to that, you guys can see 2024, we had the sell-off in April that was bought up. We had the sell-off in August that was bought up, and so on. Now, is it out of danger yet? Ideally, I want it to be hold above 50-week moving average to say that we are going to start being bullish again. But so far, so good. All right. So why is this bottoming out while the markets look like they might die? Well, the markets, what the look is, it's that they're simply in consolidation and people are rushing in to choose a side just because of all the bearish news. That's the main thing. When QQQ starts leading SPY, that's a change in character, which we haven't seen all the way since November. All right. So when that consolidation started, that was in November with the initial sell off, we have started to see change in character of the relative strength. And that's a good sign. So just something to give you guys context, because obviously it's not available in all the news as well as the bearishness that's surrounding us. So why has QQQ started leading again? Well, it's probably because the software sector had capitulation sell-off, came to monthly 50 MA where we expected it to bottom out, and is starting to be bought again. And who is the, let's say, the mascot of this? Microsoft. QQQ moves where Microsoft does. Well, it's one of the bigger components, right? And it's starting to also bottom out. Now, is it going to be hunky-dory? We just go up only? Well, it's coming into the 9-week moving average. Could it stall there, pull back a little? Yes, you can have a day or two of sell-off. But given the fact that it's also bouncing from the monthly 50 MA, we would be expecting a push up all the way to the 9 MA that can lead to some consistent strength in QQQ over the next couple of months. Same for QQQ SPY. Once we are above the 50-week moving average, all right, that's still to be confirmed, but it's a good sign so far. Once we are above it, we can expect some relative strength for the next couple of months. So that's the main idea, or something that I want you guys to focus on, which is not obvious from just they're talking about oil, Iran, all the other bearish news around us. So that's one of the main things. What is the other thing? Let's look at the structure of all the Mag 7. So we already know that Mag 7, the individual names are a big component of the indices. If Microsoft, we already saw that it's starting to bounce, where is NVIDIA? NVIDIA is in a consolidation and it's at 50-week moving average. Could it break down below it? It could. And same can QQQ can break down, SPY can break down. But until they do, we have to give them the benefit of doubt and know that they are in structure that can just as easily break to the upside as well. What about Apple? Same thing. Also in consolidation. First consolidation after a base box breakout. What does that signal? Usually a breakout to the upside. All right. What about Google? Google has been slightly weaker, but also at support. If it breaks below that next week, you can expect some weakness, but so far at support. What about Meta? In a tight range, still range bound all the way since November. If it breaks support, sure, but until then, give it the benefit of doubt. What about Netflix? Netflix has started its bounce close above the 21-week moving average, probably heading to the 50. What about Tesla? First consolidation after a base box breakout at a 50 MA, right? If it breaks below, sure, you can get bearish. But so far, the Mag 7s are showing that there is a chance of positivity, which is not available if you just focus on the bearish news. Now, is it a surprise that VIX last week moved up all the way to 30 and the indices are still holding up? That's a very good sign. Could we see a gap up in VIX and the indices sell off and then Monday is a gap open down? Sure. But when VIX is this high, how often can it stay this high? Not too long for the most part. Usually when we see a VIX expansion like this, we are close to a bottom rather than a top. Even